Hi, I'm Jodi Daly, and this is Let's Talk, where consumers like us talk about what matters every day. Well, the internet, pretty much where we all live, from catching up on news to buying groceries. But there's always that possibility of getting hacked. So how do we keep our identity safe or minimize the damage after it happens? Well, when we come back, we're going to talk to three people who've had experience both personally and professionally with cyber breaches. So don't go away.
Squirrels know how to save. They have to. But people, they're a different story. Some try coupons or check apps for the lowest price. Some wait for the word SALE. Many people, however, know that the lowest prices without coupons or special sales come when they regularly buy store brands. Food, beverages, household, health and beauty. Your supermarket, drug chain, or mass merchandiser has store brands with comparable ingredients, taste, and performance to more expensive national brands. A family of 4 can save $1,500 a year, and you can squirrel that away for other things you need to buy. Store brands, the real way to save.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it. Now, keeping our identity safe on the internet is always on our minds. But how do we protect ourselves from sophisticated hackers? And what should we do if we become a victim? Well, my guests today are all extremely familiar with cybercrime. Amir, you were hacked during a search engine breach in 2016. But thanks to some very quick thinking, you kind of minimized that damage.
Yes.
Mark, you were hacked and you were actually watching as somebody took over your wife's computer.
True.
Good God. And Janice, you are an expert in the field, and thank you for being with us to give us some great tips on internet safety. Well, thank you all for being here. Now, Amir, I want to start with you. What happened?
What happened was that I got an email from Yahoo saying that someone has attempted to access your account. And then later on, I got emails from relatives stating that, we've been getting emails from your account saying that you're in London, that you're sick and you need money, to pay the doctor. So this type of thing. Now,
the thing is, you're in IT. So, I mean, how did that happen to you?
Because my Yahoo account, it doesn't have anything all that sensitive on there. It was a breach of security on Yahoo's part.
But the people on your contact list were contacted.
Yeah, they were contacted. These were people that I correspond with and people that I happen to know. So yes.
And they also know you wouldn't be asking for a couple $100s because you're in London and sick, right?
Most of them, except for the older ones who thought that this might be real. So they decided to call my wife. They called me.
That's a shame.
Yes.
So, but you minimized the damage. You got on it right away. What did you do?
First of all, I changed my passwords, and then I set up my security settings so that if someone logs on from an unfamiliar location, I get notified immediately.
Now, that's pretty new, too, because I don't remember that. I don't remember being able to get that information, let's say, 5, 10 years ago. That's kind of a new thing, isn't it? A new level of security?
Yes, that is.
That's great.
Gmail started to do it, and Apple does it all the time.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Wow. Now, it sounds like, between you and me, that everything's okay now. What would you have done differently?
I would have, well, main thing that I've changed is that anything which is even remotely sensitive, I keep it either in iCloud or in Dropbox or somewhere where it's harder for someone to get to it.
Wait a minute, you keep stuff on the cloud? You keep sensitive material on the cloud?
Yes, because in modern life, there's too much, we have too many accounts, usernames, passwords to be able to store in our heads. And if we keep them on our computer and someone hacks into the computer, they will get access to everything.
Okay, I have a feeling that I'm watching Janice down at the end, and she may be a little skeptical about that method of keeping things safe, but we'll get to you in 1 second, Janice. I'm going to actually talk to you next, Mark, because you had something similar but very different happen to you. What happened to your computer?
Well, we were trying to delete an outdated account from a well-known social networking website.
Sure.
And we couldn't find an 800 number. What we found one on the internet, and to make a long story short, wound up getting scammed out of more than $1,000 via credit card charges.
And basically, you and your wife were watching somebody actually go into your computer.
In live time.
In live time. So you're watching somebody take it over. But who took care of it? PayPal and Amex, they were on the phone with you?
So we couldn't find a customer service number to speak with a live human, to resolve our issue. So we went on to the internet and found what appeared to be an 800 number and contacted it, but it turned out to be a total scam. People pretending to help us with our IT issue, but then wound up asking us to connect to PayPal in order to be able to resolve it. And I know what everyone's thinking, but when you're in the heat of the moment, I guess this is social engineering, you're not really paying so much attention.
Now, when you say social engineering, what do you mean by that? Because I know that's a term that not all of us are familiar with.
And for me, this is the appalling part, that we were on the phone with a person who misrepresented himself, surprise, surprise, and told us that their company was now aligned with PayPal, and we would have to, give account information in order for them to resolve our issue, which again, in retrospect, was rather foolish. But in the heat of the moment, you don't really think so clearly. So we watched online as we gave control of the computer to this person, and we saw on one half of the screen them theoretically resolving our issue with the other website, and our PayPal account on the other side. And in the middle of this, our cell phones just started buzzing, and it turned out to be our credit card companies checking for fraudulent transactions.
Thank God.
Yes, absolutely. And there must have been about 8 charges, I'd say, within a minute to our credit cards.
Now, how did you finally get out of this?
As soon as I picked up the phone and our credit card company asked about a recent transaction, we immediately logged off the computer, unplugged it, and went back to the credit card companies, and fortunately they were able to help us resolve everything.
Now, what do you do differently today? Because I imagine that's learning the lesson. Both of you learned it the hard way. You learned it without even knowing about it, and you learned it by trusting somebody you thought was, trustworthy on a search engine. What do you do differently now?
Well, unfortunately, you've got to be more jaded, more cautious, and even if it's a live person, we bear in mind that be sure about how they're representing themselves, and never give any kind of financial related information to any accounts, period.
Yeah, that's very true. And I know kids do that sometimes too, which we will talk about with Janice when we come back. So it's scary stuff, and when we come back, Janice is going to talk about how these things are very common no matter who you are, where you live, or what kind of cybersecurity you think you have in place. So stay right there.
Who makes store brands? We hired a famous detective to find out. He snooped here, and he snooped there. And what he found was, in many cases, the same company that made the national brand made the store brands too. Wow! Then he found that many store brands are made by manufacturers who specialize in store brands, experts in working with retailers to give you great products at great savings. Wow! But most important, he found that store brands have to meet the same government standards as the national brands. What's the difference between store brands and national brands? Usually, only the price. Store brands. Be your own detective.
Well, we're back, and we're talking about how, with all the recent security breaches, we can keep our own identity safe online, and what we should be doing to keep our kids safe, too. Now, Janice, in your business, I would think that you would know how to stop hacking 100% before it starts. Am I right?
That's impossible.
That's the problem.
I hate to break it to you.
That's the problem. So what do you think about what happened to those guys?
Obviously, I mean, these are lessons learned. These are clearly preventable now because they've happened, right? What happened to Amir was the largest hack of all time. It's still like multi-million users.
And that was an internet provider in 2016.
Right.
So, yeah.
And in that particular case, I mean, you have to take really good inventory of all your accounts. Make sure that accounts that you haven't used in a long time should be, decommissioned.
Yes.
So, like,
well, that's what he was trying. Mark was trying to do that. Yeah. And look what happened to him.
Exactly. Right. But at the same time, also be vigilant to make sure that you're calling the right number, calling it from the website itself.
No, that's a good point, because I don't know if you guys have ever had it, but I'll get an email from Chase or from American Express, and it'll say, we've detected such and such on your account. Click here.
Right.
And I know never to click there. I always go right to the website and go from there. Is that Is that good to do?
Yeah, that's absolutely great to do. And you need to make sure also that the link is correct, because a lot of hackers nowadays will mask, it would look like a legitimate link.
Yeah.
Or they'll add another, like Chase would be CHASSSE.
Yes, right.
That's something that these hackers will do. And I will get it also within my company email.
Really?
Corporations have been phished. It's what they call sending out fake emails to try to get someone within the corporation to just click on a link, and one email's targeted, one email clicks on a link and the whole corporate network can be hacked.
That's unbelievable. And that can come in through one email.
Right, through one
now,
email.
You said Amir said something earlier about keeping information. Where were you saying?
You can keep it in iCloud because they have very strong two-factor authentication.
Okay, so how do you feel about that? I'm a little leery of the cloud for personal information myself, but what do you think as an expert about that?
I'm leery of the cloud as well, but I think it's also a powerful tool. As Amir has said, there's multi-factor authentication. So it is a lot more secure than these clouds have been in the past. However, hackers, that's their job. They're sitting down at the computer 24/7 trying to find vulnerabilities.
Now, vulnerabilities aren't just at the computer. When you and I were talking on the phone, you were saying how hackers have become very socially sophisticated. Talk to us about that.
Or as Mark was talking about social engineering, they will, they've gotten we've gotten phone calls before asking for previous addresses. Where have you lived? I've heard of these situations. And these are important information that banks will use to verify your identity. Previous addresses. Oh, can you verify that you've lived at 123 Main Street previously?
Yeah.
And if you tell them yes, or even if you give them the information, I know that probably elderly people are more prone to this.
Or kids.
Or kids.
You get kids on the phone.
Yeah.
And
Did you ever live on Elm Street? Oh, yeah, we lived there when I was in sixth grade.
And this is pure, social engineering. And just personal information on your car, for instance, having, the popular stickers with the dad and the kid and the mom and the dog.
Right. Yeah, I never thought of that.
So, knowing that they've got 2 boys and a girl, and these are the kind of information that hackers use, if they're targeting you.
So what do we do, especially, you're a parent. How many kids do you have?
1.
Okay. How do you keep your child safe in this world?
We have a Gmail account, and Google, I'm not sure about other providers, but Google in particular has a very great feature that any account that's linked to your master account, whenever they're logged in anywhere else, so my son logs in at school, I get the alert for multi-factor authentication. It says that he's logged in at such and such location, and it'll give you the city and the IP address and everything. And I'm like, okay, he's at school, so I approve whether he can get in or not.
When you say multi-factor identification or authentication, what is that?
The first layer would be logging in with your password, and a second layer would be, getting a text from the provider, and then having to go in and type in the code again.
Okay.
Typing in a second code.
Or when I go into my bank, it says, what was the name of your first pet, or something. That would be
something
a
like
second
that,
layer.
right.
Okay. What would you guys say you're doing a little bit differently now, maybe with your kids, after these things have happened?
Well, with my daughter, the first thing is that she doesn't have an email account right now. But she's only 8. She's only 8.
I think that's wise, Amir. I really do. Nobody needs to be typing to her at 8.
No. She's only 8, and she's not on any type of social media. We don't allow that. She doesn't have her own device. She uses our device.
That's great.
So we're able to monitor what she's doing. And the only thing that she does is that she plays games.
Okay, and they're closed.
The games are closed, but the funny thing with the games are because they're free, they will often have advertisements that try to target the kids.
Interesting. Yeah. How about you, Mark?
Oh, our children are a little bit older, but what we try to do is really educate them about the realities of the virtual world now. I mean, even though you're on your cell phone, it's the same as being out in the woods, and there are lions and tigers and bears.
Oh my!
And oh my! And you've got to be aware that there are people looking to take advantage. So we try to make them aware of that. And on the technological side, the way both of our kids have cell phones, the way it's been set up, we actually get copied or have access to the texts and a lot of the interaction that they have, so we can. They're young enough still where we want to monitor and keep them safe, and at the same time try to educate them, because it's obviously a different world than we all grew up in.
And they can't be passive about it. Any final thought from you, Janice?
Well, yeah, as Mark hit it right on the head, education is key. Don't speak to strangers in person the same way you wouldn't speak to a stranger online. 'Cause my son plays video games online all the time, and I tell them, don't speak to anyone. Like, you can play with them, but don't speak to them, because the chatting, they'll social engineer the children,
Yes.
and that's the easiest way.
This is a frightening show and a lot to think about. But if there's one thing I'd like our viewers to come away with, is that it is going to happen, and we just have to be vigilant about it, right?
Absolutely.
Great
Absolutely.
tips. Thank you so
Exactly.
much, guys. I really appreciate it. And for all of you, in another episode, we'll be talking about all those marketing calls you're getting. But for now, for more information on what you've seen today, visit Store Brands USA channel here on YouTube, or go to storebrandsusa.com for shopping information, recipe ideas, and more. I'm Jodi Daly, and I'll see you next time for another edition of Let's Talk.